Imagine waking up to a world that feels vaguely wrong. Not apocalyptic, not catastrophic, just different in a way you can't quite articulate. The sunlight feels harsher, the air feels heavier. It's not that you can't breathe, it's that every breath feels dry, slightly stinging the inside of your lungs. There's a thin haze in the sky, even on a clear day, and the horizon seems washed of its usual blue. Something has shifted in the balance of the planet. And somewhere far away, deep in South America, the trigger for this imbalance lies silent. The Amazon rainforest, the largest, most complex, most life-filled ecosystem on Earth, is gone. It didn't wither gently, it didn't fade slowly. It collapsed in a cascading sequence of droughts, fires, heat waves, and ecological unraveling. The green ocean of trees that once stretched across a continent is now a barren expanse of exposed soil, ash, and twisted roots. One of Earth's most important biological engines has stopped working, and the planet is taking its first uneasy breaths without it. At first, humanity tries to adjust. People still commute to work, markets still open, phones still ring, life continues. But beneath this fragile normalcy, Earth begins rewriting itself in ways we cannot stop or even fully understand. The Amazon once breathed water into the sky. Each tree released hundreds of liters of moisture every day, creating a floating river of vapor that fed clouds, rainfall, and weather over half a continent. With the trees gone, that river vanishes. Rain patterns collapse almost immediately. Brazil's central and southern regions dry out. Argentina loses its predictable seasonal rains. The entire agricultural belt of South America falters as crops fail under punishing drought. But the atmospheric shift doesn't stop there. The planet's weather system behaves like a giant engine. Remove a vital component, and everything starts misfiring. Africa's monsoon weakens. India's summer rainfall becomes erratic. Storm systems along the equator drift unpredictably. Dry regions grow drier. Wet regions begin experiencing chaos instead of consistency. Weather becomes something the world can no longer trust. But the sky is only one part of the crisis. Deep in the soil where tree roots once anchored life, the ground begins to degrade faster than anyone imagined. The Amazon soil is naturally poor. It relied entirely on the forest to keep it fertile. Now exposed to sun, wind, and erosion, it turns into powder. Dust storms rise from the basin, carrying millions of tons of dry, lifeless earth into the sky. Brazilian cities begin experiencing rolling clouds of brown air, choking visibility and filling homes with grit. Flights are delayed. Asthma cases surge. Sunlight dims as dust spreads across the Atlantic. The rainforest is no longer regrowing. It is dissolving into the atmosphere. And the greatest consequence has barely started: carbon. Billions of trees held billions of tons of carbon inside their trunks, branches, and roots. Once those trees die or burn, all that carbon returns to the sky. Global temperatures begin rising faster than at any point in recorded history. Heat waves push to new extremes. The Arctic melts at unprecedented speeds. The oceans warm and coral reefs bleach permanently. Glaciers retreat so quickly that rivers dependent on meltwater begin running dry. The world feels like a pot left simmering with no one watching. But even these accelerating changes are not the most devastating. The Amazon wasn't just a forest, but it was a stabilizer, a regulator, this planetary pressure valve that softened climate extremes. Without it, Earth becomes a world of sharper edges and harsher contrasts. Temperatures swing wildly. Storms grow in intensity. Coastal flooding increases as rising seas combine with unpredictable weather. Crop yields decline across multiple continents as predictable seasons become relics of the past. The global economy strains as food prices spike and water scarcity becomes a national concern for dozens of countries. Meanwhile, something else begins unfolding. Silently, but swiftly. Species extinction. The Amazon was home to 1 out of every 10 known species on Earth. When it collapses, millions of interconnected life forms lose their home in an instant. Some die immediately. Others survive briefly, wandering a landscape that can no longer support them. Predators starve, insects lose food sources, plants dependent on shade, humidity, or specific pollinators wither. The chain reaction is relentless. Hundreds of thousands of species vanish forever. Not just insects or obscure plants, but creatures that shaped ecosystems around the globe. Their absence triggers subtle ripples that travel outward into oceans, mountains, grasslands, and even deserts. While biodiversity collapses, new dangers emerge. Microbes that once lived peacefully in the moist, stable environment of the rainforest are suddenly released into the open. Some die immediately, others mutate, others adapt and spread. Insects migrate into areas they never occupied before. Diseases once limited to tropical zones expand into temperate regions. Mosquito species move north and south as warmer climates allow them to thrive in previously unsuitable habitats. Human health systems feel the strain long before governments begin to acknowledge the scale of the crisis. And still, the most profound consequence of the Amazon's death is yet to come. It arrives not in storms or droughts, but in silence. The Amazon generates its own rain through evapotranspiration, releasing moisture into the air that becomes clouds that fall again as rain. Without trees, rainfall in the basin eventually stops. Permanently, rivers shrink, fish die, indigenous communities lose access to water, food, and culture. Hydroelectric plants shut down. Millions of people are forced to migrate, becoming the first wave of rainforest refugees. But as the region dries, something unexpected happens. The land contracts, the air heats, and jet streams above the continent shift dramatically, altering global wind patterns. Bird species lose migration cues. Marine life suffers as nutrient flows carried by winds diminish. The Atlantic Ocean currents weaken as dust and nutrient cycles become disrupted. Earth's climate engine begins to sputter, and the consequences become global. The absence of the Amazon, a forest that once cooled the Earth, recycled its water, stored its carbon, and maintained its biodiversity, pushes the entire planet closer to a threshold experts fear more than any other: the runaway warming loop. A loop where Earth heats itself in a self-accelerating spiral. Permafrost melts, releasing methane. Methane warms Earth, melting more ice. Oceans warm, reducing carbon absorption. Less carbon absorption warms Earth further. Droughts worsen, killing more forests. More dead forests release more carbon. The Earth becomes a machine spiraling toward a new equilibrium, one that looks nothing like the world that humanity evolved on. Temperatures rise 4 degrees Celsius, 5 degrees Celsius, even 6 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Some regions swing from survivable to deadly. Heat waves reach temperatures that make outdoor labor impossible. Millions of people migrate northward or southward in search of cooler climates. Infrastructure buckles under constant thermal stress. The Amazon disappearing is no longer a regional issue. It becomes a global turning point, a boundary that once crossed permanently changes the evolutionary path of the planet. And the most haunting part, we could reach this threshold long before the Amazon is fully gone. Scientists estimate that losing just a quarter of the rainforest triggers an irreversible collapse known as tipping point dieback. Beyond this point, the entire Amazon transforms into dry savanna permanently. We are already over 17%. The Amazon is not just a forest, it is Earth's balance, its stability, its memory of moisture, its shield against climate chaos, its largest biological archive, its most powerful climate regulator, its greatest oxygen producer, its most vital carbon store, its pulse. Without it, Earth is not Earth. It becomes a hotter, angrier, more unpredictable version of itself. A version where humanity faces challenges no civilization in history has ever experienced. The disappearance of the Amazon is not the end of nature. Nature will continue without us. But it may very well be the beginning of the end of the world we know. Because if the Amazon disappears completely, we don't just lose a forest, we lose the future. If you found it interesting finding out what life would be like without the Amazon, like, subscribe, and turn on that bell so you never miss another thought-provoking video from the Mind Metrics. Thanks for watching, and like always, stay curious.